My name is Maye Torres, and I'm an artist in Taos, New Mexico. And on the Spanish side, I'm a 13th generation New Mexican. On the native side, go back to its origins. We have German blood, Celtic blood, so it's this global New Mexican mix, and I love it. I was born in the heart of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, the Blood of Christ Mountains in northern New Mexico, which is the high desert. We get these remarkably cruel winters that are incredibly beautiful at the same time, and it seems like you can touch the stars at night. Our springs are incredibly long and worrisome, and we have this other season called mud season. And when it seems that everybody comes alive is at planting season and summertime. I came from two different families from Taos. My father was from Ranchos de Taos, and they were more of a salt of the earth, rural farming family, and my mother was from a more wealthier, established old Spanish family in the town of Taos, and they had the local bar on the plaza. So in the summer times, it was quite wonderful to go to my grandparents' house on the plaza, and fiestas were happening at the end of July, which meant the plants were all planted and they were growing, so people could take a little bit of a break and get together on the plaza. So it was an event where all three cultures would come together on the plaza. It was music and dancing and booths, and you could put your name on a feathered hat, and it was a time when people would catch up on what they did during the year, catch up on families, see the new ones, talk to elders. And my grandparents lived right next to the plaza, so a lot of people would come and bringing tamales and bringing pozole and the wonderful chiles that everybody would make. We would have this great party in their courtyard, and kids would be free and running back and forth to the plaza events and getting adorned for the parades that were happening. And the artists were very involved in the parades. And it was just this wonderful midsummer grouping of time that people could have fun together. And as the time went on, the clouds start emptying their thunder rains in August. In September, the airs start cooling a little bit, and the sky becomes so turquoise blue that you can barely stand it. Time for apple picking on my dad's side of the family was after the first freeze. We would all come together as a family and pick this huge orchard of apples, and they would have the guys up there with ladders picking all the apples, and us younger kids who were small enough to go up on the tippy-top branches, we would go pick those sacred heavenly apples on the top and pass them down as carefully as we could to the people below. If we dropped or bruised the apples, my grandpa would get really upset because this was their main source of income in the fall. And these thousands of apples would be parading up over the acequia, over the river to my grandmother's house, where the women were just peeling as quick as they could these thousands and thousands of apples and making applesauce and apple pies to last the whole winter long. There were also preserves with peaches and apricots, and it was a time when we would also have a matanza, which was the time when an animal was chosen for us to eat during the winter. So being the tomboy that I was down there in the fields with the guys in the butchering of either a cow, a sheep, or a pig. After they would slaughter the animal with a given prayer and thanking its life for giving us life, they would slit the throat, and the blood would empty into a bucket, which I would diligently carry to my grandmother up in the kitchen. And then I would run back down to help with the cooking, because those guys needed to eat as they were butchering. And my job was to cook up the heart and the liver and the kidneys, and there was always this odd fight for the eyeballs, like who gets to eat the eyeballs. It's a very down-to-earth family. Another beautiful thing in the fall was to us the return of the angels. It was said that when Christ was crucified, that the angels had so much grief in them. There were only 4 places in the world they could find solace, and the Taos Valley was one of them. So after the crucifixion, the angels came here and cried and cried and cried. And it said that where their tears landed, they became starolites, which are little cross-shaped rocks embedded with red garnets that represent the blood of Christ. My mother's family were descendants of the Padre Martinez family, who was kind of a rebel priest in this area. He formed the first co-ed school west of the Mississippi and started the first print press here in New Mexico called El Crepúsculo, which means the dawn. He was actively a spiritual leader in this community until they brought Bishop Lamy in, who excommunicated him from the Catholic Church, which didn't seem to bother anybody because my great-great-great-great-grandfather just went ahead and started his own church in his backyard where everybody in Taos would come for services. And I'm not sure, poor Bishop Lamy, if he had anyone going to his services. The counterculture was full of rock and roll and Rolling Stones, and here we were in northern New Mexico, and this trickle of influx would come in, and in the late 60s we were particularly flooded with a new counterculture group of people, and they had several communes here in New Mexico, and apparently they really admired our lifestyle, so they came here to live like us. We didn't quite understand what this counterculture was because this was our culture. This is how we had lived for a long time. Yet the new assimilation of Americans was happening through TV and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Gilligan's Island. So we were all being introduced to the same material in the whole United States, yet we still had our wonderful tamale culture that was integrated with the people at the Pueblo and the people who came to seek finding themselves in this enlightened place of the planet. Counterculture was an interesting development that happened in this valley. And there's still a lot of so-called counterculture, anti-establishment people who come here, the rainbow people come here, and the locals often interact and sometimes just sit back and watch. But it is a place where I think people come to find this unique spirituality in themselves that is just part of this valley. So I hope to see that all these cultures that can continue to kind of meld into each other and especially accept each other as differences as strengths and not trying to change them into one similar, boring mashed potato or something.